Hey guys, welcome to my C# classes tutorial. In this tutorial we'll be using Visual Studio 2012. Today we're going to create a new project. We'll call it our class tutorial or something. And what we're going to do with this is we're going to show you how to make multiple classes and transfer information between multiple forms using C#. Give it a minute while it loads up here. Alright, so first thing we're going to do is just set up our form. We're going to put a text box in here and a button. So if you're familiar with the Visual Studio, you'll know they're on the side, but they're going to be in what's called your toolbox. So you're going to want to look for a text box and a button. What's nice about Visual Studio is everything's organized alphabetically. So there we go, we've got a text box and a button in our form. Pretty simple. So we're already starting to design our GUI. And this is an intermediate tutorial, just as a heads up, but for the less advanced users, you still might learn something here, but this is going to be an intermediate tutorial. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to add a second form, and we'll just call it Form 2 for now. You can get creative with your names, but for now we just want a second form to be there. And in this one we're just going to have a text box. So we'll go ahead and scroll alphabetically, pull our text box in here. We'll do some resizing to make things look nice. And there you have it. We got a little text box going on. Now, because I like to be consistent in my layout, I like to get everything set up before I start. We're going to add another class into our project. And we'll just call this a transfer class because we're just going to use it to transfer information. So we'll just change the name down here to transfer. Excellent. And now that'll pull us straight into the code. We don't want to use that code yet. We're going to set some things in our form 1. Just make sure everything's right. Okay, we're going to create a public variable. This is going to be something that we can pull in other forms that we load this class into. So we'll make a public string, string is just characters. It's literally letters or words, and we'll call that string name. Next thing we're going to do is go into our main form, and this is the one that will launch on load, by the way, and we're going to add that class to it so that we can use the information in it. So we'll do transfer, and then we'll call it TFR, and it'll equal a new transfer, and then you got to put your parentheses and semicolon. So now that we've got that set up, we can start setting variable names. So we can set things like the text box value, which is text box 1 in this case. You can name them, but we want the transfer.name to equal textbox1.text. Now that we've got that set up, let's go into the transfer class and let's load up form 2. So let's get some information here. In fact, you know what? We're going to need to set up a couple things first in form 2. We're going to need a public variable that we can pull in the data and transfer things around in. So what I'm doing here is I'm looking for a modifier, but in this case I don't believe we're going to need it. Yeah, I don't think we're going to need that. So what you do here is in that class, what you're going to create is a public string as well. And we'll set this one to name as well, and it's not going to take the place of the other one. It's literally one into itself, but it's easy to manage because we know what class we're getting it from. So now we're back in the transfer class, and what we're going to need to do is set up some information. So from within that class, we're going to load in form 2's information. So we'll do form 2 frm2 equals new form 2, and then as always parentheses and semicolon. Alright, Now let's create a method, and a method in object-oriented programming is very important to use, so it keeps information organized in an easy-to-use way. So we're going to make this method private. That means that only this class can see this method. So if I try to use this in Form 1 or Form 2, it would tell me to get bent because it's not going to happen. And it's a way of just keeping information organized and secure. And in here, we're just going to set the value of Form 2's name equal to name in this class, which we're going to set in Form 1. And then we're going to have a public method, and we're going to use that to get the information out of the private method so that it can be used within another class. So it's only because I want this information to get out that it's going to get out. I can't just call it implicitly from another class. I have to actually declare that this method is public. And let me just set up some names real quick. We'll call this one getText, and we'll make the private method, we'll just call that text so that we know what's doing what. Okay, so now we're just going to set this to text, and we're going to need to use semicolon or parentheses and semicolons as well. So let's get this set up real quick. Excellent. Okay, so now we've got that. Let's go back into Form 1, and I have this in the wrong place. I have it on onLoad, which is not where I want it. So we're going to put it into on the button click. So now on the button click, the transfer variable name will equal whatever's in text box 1, and I'm going to call that method because when I call that method, it makes the transfer name it makes the Form 2 name equal to transfer name. So we're setting transfer name first by calling text box 1, and then we're calling that method in transfer, which sets Form 2's name to the value of name in transfer, which should be the value of text box 1. So we're passing it from one class to one to another. And I'm going to comment this out for myself just so I can kind of have an idea of what I'm trying to work with here.